So when I woke up today, I thought it was going to be a pretty simple day, navigating the NBA world. There were two Game 5s scheduled for later tonight with the Sixers and Hawks playing at 7:30 Eastern and then the Clippers Jazz following them up. Two series that I'm still really looking forward to, two really important Game 5s, and this is all coming on the heels of a crazy Kevin Durant performance that I made a video about last night if you want to go check it out. So the NBA world, the playoffs are going on. The Suns are at home chilling, waiting to see who they're going to play in the Western Conference Finals. Nothing much is happening. It's not the offseason, so I'm not expecting any major news at this point, other than maybe who the Thunder are going to have represent them at the lottery. Sam Presti, if you're watching this video, hit me up. So, just a typical day, waking up, ready for NBA playoff basketball. And I woke up a little bit earlier than I usually do. And I was like, I'll check my phone real quick before I, maybe go back to sleep for a little bit. And I quickly realized that today was a day that the NBA was going to set on fire. June 16th of 2021 is a day that a lot of people will probably remember for a while in the NBA because pretty much everything possible happened. Everything outside of things that could have happened in the offseason. We had coach firings, we had players being out indefinitely, we had a LeBron James rant on Twitter, and a major award was announced to the dismay of one of the guys who wanted to win it. So, let's go over everything that happened and catch you up in case you aren't super active on Twitter like I am. Which, if you aren't super active on NBA Twitter, I don't know how you manage to navigate the NBA world, and if you're not, go ahead and follow me at 3_Cone on Twitter. So, probably the biggest news of today is the news about Kawhi Leonard and Chris Paul. Now, both of these players, according to reports, are out indefinitely for the NBA playoffs. Now, what does this mean? It doesn't mean that they're out forever, but as of right now, there's no set timetable, and it's for two different reasons. I'll start with Chris Paul. The Suns are sitting at home waiting to see what happens with the Jazz Clippers series. So there's no way that Chris Paul could have gotten hurt, right? And he didn't. However, after Game 4 of the Nuggets-Suns series, he did jump into the crowd to give his mom a hug, and I don't know if that's where this came from, but when that happened, my first thought was like kind of a jokingly haha type thing, is like, wow, like imagine if Chris Paul somehow ended up in health and safety protocols. That'd be insane. I should have kept my mouth shut because Chris Paul has tested positive for COVID and is now in health and safety protocols. What does this mean? It means that he's out for at least probably 10 days, and that is on the lower side, theoretically, from what the NBA has said in the past. However, they have also stated that when players get vaccinated, which Chris Paul is, it's on record. Apparently, he got vaccinated in like February, which is good for him. But apparently, players that got vaccinated, if they do test positive for COVID, have shorter periods of having to wait out and wait to get back into the games. I don't know quite what that period is. Hopefully, it's soon, and hopefully this Jazz Clippers series goes as long as possible to give the opportunity for Chris Paul to get healthy and get right to lead the Suns with Devin Booker by his side into their first Western Conference Finals appearance in a decade. It would suck if Chris Paul had to miss any time. A guy who's been honestly cursed, and this whole situation just makes me think he's even more cursed than I thought he was before, and he's had some really, really bad luck, both injuries to him, injuries to his teammates, a lot of bad luck in the NBA playoffs. So hopefully he's able to come back, but that was probably the biggest news that dropped today, that alongside the news that Kawhi Leonard hurt his knee in Game 4, in the final minutes of Game 4. He played on it for a couple minutes after the knee injury, or a video that looks like where he kind of tweaked it. He was kind of like jockeying with Joe Ingles. They were like hip to hip, and he kind of just stepped on his knee wrong, hopped around a little bit, and then he looked kind of okay. But now there's reports out that he's out indefinitely, and that there's fears that it might be an ACL, which is, first of all, awful, and I'm hoping Kawhi Leonard gets back as soon as possible. But it also completely, at this moment, shifts the NBA entirely. Because the Clippers right now, up to this point, were probably the healthiest team out of anyone we've seen. The Jazz are missing an all-star. The Phoenix Suns, who were pretty healthy, are now missing Chris Paul. The Atlanta Hawks are missing Cam Reddish. They're missing DeAndre Hunter. And with the Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid isn't 100%. The Bucks have Dante DiVincenzo out. Kyrie Irving and James Harden have dealt with injuries. Every team is dealing with injuries at this point, except for, pretty much for the most part, the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, they have been missing Serge Ibaka, but he hasn't played the entirety of the playoffs, and so we don't really know what that would look like even if he did play. But right now, the Jazz are without Mike Conley, but he might come back at some point in the series. I'm pretty sure it's already said he's not going to play tonight. But if Kawhi Leonard's out, I don't see how the Clippers win this series. The Jazz just have to win 2 of 3 games, and without Kawhi Leonard, without Paul George really stepping up in a big way, which he's going to have to do, the Clippers are going to lose again. before the conference finals, which is another thing that's cursed, is that the Clippers can't make it out of the second round of the playoffs. If they had Kawhi Leonard, I would pick them to beat the Jazz, and I think the way that the series has been going, the Clippers were going to win this thing in 6, especially if Mike Conley doesn't come back. But now the whole landscape has shifted. The whole Western Conference has shifted, mainly because now, if the Jazz stay relatively healthy, if Chris Paul misses any time, and if Kawhi Leonard's out, the Jazz should make the finals, and they probably will. Which is crazy to think about, that they might just have kind of a waltz through the rest of the Western Conference, which is insane with how much of a bloodbath it's been all season. But that's kind of been the story of these NBA playoffs, that things have just been going crazy injury-wise. Of course, COVID makes one last strike against the NBA, trying to take a player out for a playoff series, praying he's able to come back soon. But that was probably the biggest news today, in case you missed that somehow. Following that up with all the news about the injuries, because now we have seen a record number of all-star caliber players miss time in the NBA playoffs. LeBron James went on a Twitter rant ranting about how we shouldn't have played the season right now, which is probably true, about how he tried to warn the players and all that stuff. The rant is all there on I think he still has it up on Twitter. You know who LeBron James is. You know where to find his Twitter if you want to go look at that rant. And that just added more fuel to the fire. The timeline was attacking Adam Silver, the league, in shambles, yelling about how the conference finals should be delayed. Whether you think that or not is completely your opinion. So the NBA, as you can see, has kind of been in an uproar today. And even outside of that, we had 2 head coaches get fired, and we also had a president of basketball operations get fired. So let's get into that. Why don't we? Let's start with the New Orleans Pelicans, who fired Stan Van Gundy after just 1 season. And I think this is a good decision. I think Stan Van Gundy needed to go. It was clear he didn't have a great system for the personnel. I felt like he never used Lonzo Ball correctly. I feel like Zion missed out on a lot of opportunities. Brandon Ingram wasn't being used correctly. Just really no one on that team was. The management should also be fired, the front office, for the roster that they built, because it was not good. It had no spacing, and it wasn't optimized around Zion Williamson, who is your franchise guy. And so I think now that Stan Van Gundy's out, they're going to take a little more time. There's rumors that they might look at a couple of their assistant coaches, which I think is always a good decision to make if you're looking to continue kind of a sense of familiarity while also bringing in a new face for the guys. You don't want to keep bringing in brand new faces to the organization. Eventually, you've got to go in-house, and I think that might be a good decision for this Pelicans team. Get to someone who knows what happened, what went wrong this season, especially since the Pelicans blew more double-digit leads than any team in the NBA. This was a team talented enough to make a playoff push, and they really just weren't in it at the end of the season. Maybe they would have been more in it if Zion didn't end up getting hurt and missed a bunch of time, as well as Brandon Ingram, but ultimately they should have been there in the first place before the injury, and they were kind of out of it by like the All-Star break. So I think the New Orleans Pelicans made a good decision here. It was just kind of surprising because typically you don't see coaches fired after 1 season, but like I said, I think it had to be done. And then following that, a coach who was rumored to have already been confirmed staying with this team, Scott Brooks of the Washington Wizards, was also fired. And boy, was my timeline celebrating after that one happened. Scott Brooks is someone who I think should have been fired. If he kept his job, I was going to be shocked coming into this next season. And then I saw the reports that he was going to keep his job, and I was like, well, here we go again. Another situation similar to like the Mike Budenholzer situation, where I think he should have been fired last year and the Bucks just weren't willing to make a change. I'm glad the Wizards are making a change. Scott Brooks did not do a good job this season. The only reason the Wizards made the playoffs and went on that run was because of Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. He didn't do much at all. He ran a bunch of 3-guard lineups against a Sixers team that's just way taller than them. He didn't optimize his personnel very well. He turned Deni Avdija, their top 10 pick, into a spot-up shooter when that's not his role before he went out with injury for the season. Nothing felt right when Scott Brooks was out there. The rotations didn't make sense. The play styles, the roles that guys were asked to play didn't make sense. He had to go. And especially when you have Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, you're trying to compete now. I know that's not necessarily realistic for the Washington Wizards, but you've got to try, I guess, with 2 of those guys. Maybe they could try and make some noise when Thomas Bryant comes back. Daniel Gafford was a nice surprise. Maybe they try and pick up another solid role player somewhere in the draft, or they make a trade. Maybe they bring in someone for a mid-level exception. Who knows? But Scott Brooks had to go. And in terms of who they hire for coaching, I think they just ask Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook what they think. And if they give a good candidate, then you consider them. Unless it's like another Damian Lillard vouching for Jason Kidd situation, in which case you probably shouldn't listen to him because I don't think Jason Kidd's a very good coach. So those are the two coach firings we saw. And then the Mavericks, in the midst of a story coming out the other day that Luka Doncic was unhappy with a lot of decisions the front office was making, fired their GM. I saw a report that came from Mark Spears. I really don't know how true it is that Luka's pissed about that, but I don't really know where it's at in this point. So, I think if you got to fire him, you got to fire him. Apparently, he's been around for 23 years, which is a long, long time in the NBA. I think he was the longest tenured GM up to this point, and now that he's fired, I'm pretty sure it's Sam Presti, which is cool, But when you make that big of a decision, it's a big one. They're apparently hiring a search firm to go look for a new general manager. I'm sure they're going to make a good decision. They need to make one for Luka. And when you trade Seth Curry with the playoffs he's having, maybe your GM should get fired. So those are my thoughts on all those firings. All good decisions as long as it doesn't piss off your star players. And finally, I'm saying this as if it's like a list of 3 things as opposed to 90 things that happened in the first 2 hours of the day. They announced in the middle of all of this, the NBA decided, hey, now is a good time to announce the Rookie of the Year, right? I guess so. They announced that LaMelo Ball won the Rookie of the Year award. He was my pick for the Rookie of the Year when I made my awards video. You could have went either way with him or Anthony Edwards. I'm not going to argue if you think it should have been Anthony Edwards. I'm not going to argue if you think he's snubbed. I'm not going to argue if you think LaMelo Ball was 100% the candidate, whatever you want to say. I think it was a 2-man race, and I think either one of them could have won the award, and I wouldn't have been mad about it. So, congratulations to LaMelo Ball. Anthony Edwards is going to get his own. He's really good in his own right, and he's going to be a stud for a while in this league. But people have been very mad on the timeline in the midst of all of this also going on. NBA Twitter was exploding over who should have won Rookie of the Year, and Anthony Edwards fueled that fire by reposting something on his Instagram story to the tune of, I don't know who it was from, I don't remember. He deleted it later, but it was something to the tune of, like Anthony Edwards was robbed. How could they give it to LaMelo Ball? Like that's a stupid decision, whatever. So that adds some fuel to the fire. Anthony Edwards also retweeting some stuff about how he was snubbed and quote tweeting some stuff with 100 emojis about how the NBA has now poked the bear and he's going to prove everyone wrong. So that should be a fun storyline to see between him and LaMelo. I already feel like we're going to get some chippiness the first time they play in their careers next season. Have they played before? They probably have played against each other before. But the first time they play next season is what I meant to say. We'll probably get some chippiness, and I'm sure Hornets fans and Wolves fans will now not like each other, which is another fun dynamic to NBA Twitter. So, that's everything that happened today. Or I believe so. I might have missed some. I had work, and I spent, honestly, most of my work on my phone waiting for more NBA news to drop because of everything that was going on. Really, I just want, at this point, why don't we just do the NBA draft lottery today? Let's cause more controversy. Let's just do it. If everything's going to happen in the NBA today, why not, So, let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on those 112 topics that I just talked about. What do you think about the firings? What do you think about the Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard situations? Are the Clippers and or Chris Paul cursed at this point? Do you now believe it? Should Stan Van Gundy and Scott Brooks have been fired? Who should replace them? And finally, who was your Rookie of the Year? I'm probably not going to argue with you in the comment section below, but if you want to get in an argument amongst yourselves, do whatever you want to do. At this point, the NBA is on fire, so I can't stop you from doing anything. That's all I had to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this video about me talking about the million things that happened on a random Wednesday in the NBA. This is why I love this league. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys later. Everyone say back.